Welcome to Season 2, Episode 9 of the BBL Show, the place for all British Basketball League related news. You know by now, I am Jay Marriott. He is Drew Lasker. We are here to give you a spooktacular episode today with BBL being back on Sky Sports, courtesy of Buzz 16, and we will be welcoming CEO Scott Melvin to the show to discuss Season 2 for the production. How are you doing, Mr. Lasker? How has trick-or-treating been for you?
It's been very scary and it's been very fun, but it was very cold, so I had to rush the last 20 minutes because I was like, yeah, it's too cold. So, but no, it was good. The kids enjoyed it. Went around to a couple of homes, got some candy. So much fun over here. What about you on your side of town?
I love it. Yeah, just a weekend off, which is very much needed. So lots of family time, lots of Halloween parties. So we had a Halloween party yesterday. We went to the cinema to watch Hocus Pocus today. And then, like you said, I did the same as brave the cold and took them around to get their sugar fix. So I think I've suitably done the dad role this weekend. And I love Halloween, man. You know, like, for you it's second nature, I'm sure, but like for us here in England, it's just got bigger and bigger over time, obviously spending time in the States. I love this holiday so much. Like, we brush over it, I feel.
Yeah, I feel like, in my 16 years here in this country, I feel like it's getting bigger and bigger. I think the internet and YouTube has a lot to do with it. It seems like this younger generation of kids have really embraced it. And like in my neighborhood, like I would say like 50% of the homes are all dolled up and dressed up. So it's good. The Brits are relaxing and starting to have a little bit more fun.
we're not all the way in yet, but we're getting there. Anyway,
yeah.
I'm gonna take this mask off. Stop us.
It's hot.
Scaring the kids. I'm a little tired, so I'm gonna get my glasses on today.
That feels a lot better.
That's better. That's what all the
Yes.
fans wanted to see. That's the money maker. Well, you're the money maker. Anyway, as usual, we are packed full of BBL goodness. We have the Lasker Lookback. We have Hot Topics. Buy or sell. But first, it's your social media spy. It's the Marriott Minute. Okay, a little bit of player movement as Sheffield Sharks add former Eagle Rodney Glasgow Jr. Be interested to see how he mixes with those guys. London Lions, both men and women, continue their phenomenal form in Europe. Really enjoyed watching them both perform on the biggest stage. I've said it already, but BBL is back on Sky Sports. Fantastic to see it on such a fantastic platform. That, as I said, last season, for me, exceeded all expectations. Special WBBL shout out to Betty Corona of the Sheffield Hatters, shortlisted for the Sunday Times Sportswoman of the Year award. Running a club for 60 years is a phenomenal achievement, and she deserves all the recognition she gets. The BBL betting odds were released this week, and interestingly, Plymouth were placed 8th at 16-1 above Glasgow Rocks, one slot below at 25-1. Bet responsibly, guys, but 25-1 on Glasgow Rocks is not a bad bet at all. But I think they need to do a little bit more homework on those odds. I always like to finish with a little bit of fun if I can. And we know London Lions are now owned by an American outfit, but Kieran Achara eased fans' confusion as new game dates were released with the dates the American way around. So that did make me laugh, and that's this week's Marriott Minute. I'm always watching.
Yeah, good minute, my man. Thanks for keeping us all informed. And special shout out to Mr. Kieran Achara, a.k.a. Disgusting. I don't know if it was mentioned on the Sky broadcast, but things were very stressful as Kieran arrived 16 minutes before we went live. So it was really hectic, but he handled it like a pro, and you would have never known. So shout out to that guy. But as we transition from the Marriott Minute, let's get to business with Hot Topics. So obviously, Jay, you followed the Sky coverage all of last season. So my question to you is, did adding the fans in the mix make a difference to the league as a product in your eyes?
I mean, I think, yeah, like obviously, like bringing fans back into the building in any sport that you're in is going to take it to another level. But it's really interesting. I feel like it was so well done last year that, you know, you almost didn't notice. So I think going in until we started having this discussion and you know, looking at it, you know, I'm looking at it through the lens of wanting to see the basketball. But obviously, when you start looking around as a production, and obviously you're trying to entice people into the game, right? Especially finances, then yeah, of course, being able to see these fans, and you know, these BBL teams have some great fan bases. So absolutely, it's going to take it to the next level. And that's just exciting because, like I said, last year it just exceeded all my expectations in terms of the production.
Yeah, it was absolutely nuts in there. It changed it from just a presenting standpoint that it was so hectic and things were moving like a million miles per hour. So I know for me in particular, it's going to take a while to get used to because there were no distractions last year. It was just basketball and production. And so you add in fans, you got everybody wanting to speak to you. It's so loud. The PA is loud. The music, everything is amped up. So it is going to take some getting used to him, but hopefully across the tellies, it comes off great with having those loud fans in the seats. So shout out to the Leicester Rider fans that they made a lot of noise. But moving on, next up, the Sheffield Sharks defeated the Manchester Giants in a surprising scoreline, 100-77. And what makes it even more surprising is that the Sharks averaged second to last in the league in scoring at 77 points per game, and Manchester is third in the league at 88. So what was more surprising to you? Was it the 100 points from the Sheffield Sharks or the 77 points from the Manchester Giants, who we know have a ton of talent and firepower?
Yeah, I think the 100 from the Sharks for sure. You know, because that's not their MO. You know, that's just not what they're gonna do. So, you know, like I said, when we do these predictions, you always expect there's going to be some games go against you, and this was one of them. When I was looking at it, I was like, you know, I said before in those picks, anywhere from sort of 3 down to 7, they are going to be in the mix and they are going to be beating each other. But 100 points was yeah, a surprise from the Sheffield Sharks, that's for sure.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's definitely the 100 points from the Sheffield Sharks for me. I was very surprised when I saw the score line live at Morningside Arena because we both had chose Manchester Giants and they were rolling off to a hot start. But obviously they added a piece in Rodney Glasgow, who brings a little bit of firepower off the bench. But I just want to hang tight because, you know, we've seen this before from the Sheffield Sharks, and you mentioned in the last episode, they're just very good at being consistent. So the question we have to answer moving forward is this just a fifth or sixth place performance, or have they figured out a recipe where they can actually challenge for some silverware and be in the third and fourth spot? So only time will tell. As Jay's camera just went off. There we go. He's back. He's back with us for Hot Topics. Yeah, maybe he was running because this last question on Hot Topics, this is probably the hottest topic on the socials. I mean, we know, Jay, that you, for some reason, you have a lot of haters on the socials. And for me, it always seems like it's personal. So we need you to clear this up, man. What is up with the Jay Marriott and the Plymouth City Patriots Twitter beef about?
Yeah, it's no beef for me. I think it's just interesting in when you watch how people behave towards like a failure of yours. Do you know what I mean? So like we don't need to go back over old ground. It didn't work out for me when I first went into coaching, like with Plymouth, and you know, there's million reasons around that, but people feel like they think that's a pressure point for me, but that made me get better. That catapulted me onto other levels and made me go to other places and explore different things. So it's always very strange. And I think for me with the Patriots, like, I'm not hating on the Patriots. Like, I'm saying it how it is. I'm being honest about the situation. Like, I am a Plymouth Raiders fan. Like, that's hard for me to see another name in the city. Like, Anthony has a completely different view of it last week, and he sees it as a fantastic thing. And for me, like, I'm very hesitant about the whole situation. I'm late to get on the bus. And then also, like you said, the criticism is going to come because you're losing very heavily and you're not putting a product out on the floor. I think everybody's saying the same thing. But again, because I'm from this area, I think people take it a little bit more personal than, than maybe it needs to be. But you just got to have fun with these things. At the end of the day, you've got to keep it into perspective. And if you're going to jump into the arena, if you're going to get in there, then you are there to be shot at. That those are things that are going to happen to you. And we can't be as glory hunting as Mr. Lasker over here. Somebody's got to be the bad guy in this show, and it looks like it's me, so I'll just embrace it. But yeah, I've never said anything rude, and like I said, there's still friends behind the scenes that work for that club. In terms of the people that have taken it over there, they're trying their absolute hardest. They've still got a fantastic coach there in Coach James, so it's not a case of bagging on any of those guys. But when I hear the Patriots, it's not for me. It's not for me right now. Like, give me a little bit of time, let me heal, and I'll come back to it. But in terms of beef, there's no beef for me. Like, I just like having a little bit of fun with people like that. And it's kind of uneducated jibes anyway. Do you know what I mean? It's not the real low shots. It's not the real low stuff that I've experienced before. So I can take a couple of jabs here and there.
Yeah, well said, my friend. I think one thing we've proven on this show is that we obviously some points we're slightly subjective and have our, like I pick Newcastle Eagles most of the time on the weekly picks, and you pick Plymouth every time last year. But besides that, everything we cover on this show is objective. And just to everyone out there, just so they understand, Jay and I are a package deal. So if you got a problem with him, then you got a problem with me. And enough said. All right, so that wraps up Hot Topics as we slide over to buy or sell. First thing in buy or sell. So obviously we touched on this, the huge Sheffield Sharks win. We mentioned briefly former Newcastle Eagle Rodney Glasgow, fresh off the plane, provided much needed bench firepower for the Sharks, finishing with 12 points and 7 assists. So coming to you, Jay. Are you buying or selling the fact that Rodney Glasgow is the missing piece to push the Sharks up the league table?
No, I'm not buying that. I think, like, he obviously he had a terrific game. You put 2 and 2 together, they scored 100 points. You think it's going to happen every time? Like, it's not that case at all. I think that whenever you've got a Tiba Lions as a coach, like, you've got a chance to win something. I just think in the league, for whatever reason, over the past few years, there's just been that inconsistency, and I still think it's there. And I don't think Rodney Glasgow solves that problem for me. We talk about it over and over again. There's a position that I see is missing in versatility that can get them over the hump. And I think until they find that piece, it doesn't matter if your offense goes up slightly. I don't see it really changing the positions that drastically. You know what I mean? Like, they are gonna, like I said, 3 through 7, something's gonna happen there. We're either gonna be right or wrong, but I'm not buying that.
Well, this is a tough one for me. I actually I haven't had an opportunity to watch that game yet. So, off rip, I gotta sell it, just because I know Rodney Glasgow. I played with him for a year, and he is more of a point guard than a combo guard. And I just look at the configuration, and it's hard for me to believe that Rodney is going to have a big year, or not have a big year, sorry, be the missing piece playing off the ball, because I think it's very clear that Aaron Anderson is the point guard there, and he needs the ball in his hand, right? Like, he's very safe with the ball. He's proven that he can take care of the basketball, as Sheffield is first in the league in taking care of the ball at 9 turnovers a game. So I need to watch the tape, see exactly how they fit him in, make sure it wasn't already a blowout. And but what he does is he brings a secondary ball handler to that team, which they definitely need, because Ratino isn't that. Kipper isn't that. So, and Williams isn't that. So we know that he brings in that secondary ball handler, which where the league was trying to transition to last year. We talked about everyone was trying to have that two-headed monster, which ironically, I feel like that Newcastle was missing that additional ball handler. So we'll get on to that. But yeah, I got to sell it for now. Sorry, Rod. I know you my guy, but I have to watch you guys first before I can buy that. But no hard feelings. Next thing on the buy or sell, currently 1-8. And we know all the issues with the Newcastle Eagles, COVID, injuries. But are you buying or selling that the Newcastle Eagles will be a mid-table team this year?
No, I can't buy into that. I just can't. It's the Newcastle Eagles. Yes, they're for sure having some struggles right now. They're trying to figure some things out, but I think that they will, by hook or by crook. I believe in Coach Mack. He made me a believer last year, in terms of how he handled like that little bit of adversity come Christmas time and push you guys onto another trophy. I think when you win something, it changes something inside you as a coach. So yeah, I'm not panicking right now, but do things need to change? Like, you're watching it, it's not quite clicking, is it? And like you said, you just pointed out there, maybe a little bit of missing that Cortez Ramon element in there as well. But other teams have gone up a level as well. So it's yeah, I'm not buying that yet.
Yeah, I'm right with you. I don't think I could say anything else. I wouldn't be able to show my face in Newcastle if I wasn't. However, I am slightly concerned, just because both of us have been on here about preaching patience with the Newcastle Eagles, and we know that the brand will take care of itself and get them through these tough times. But I'm just thinking, how long does that last, right? Like, we can only say injuries, COVID for so long, because a team like Bristol, Andreas is probably listening to this like, no, don't let those guys off the hook, because we were out on 3 separate occasions last year due to COVID. And then I look at the Leicester Riders, who essentially were missing 2 Americans in that game. Loving went out really early. They're missing Nelson Henry, and they didn't miss a beat. So I would just say this. I'm not concerned. I'm not going to panic. I think that things will turn. However, I will say that it's more so than just everyone getting healthy and bringing in that new import spot. So, I would say there needs to be some. I just can't put my finger on it. But like you mentioned, Coach McLeod, 3-time champion. He knows better than us, his group of men, and we are confident that he gets it figured out. But I just hope it's quick, fast, and in a hurry. Moving on, last point. Speaking of the Leicester Riders, finally, they handled the Eagles pretty easily, 101-73. Are you buying the fact that this is a 2-horse race for the league title?
Yeah, I'm buying that. That's exactly what I think, and I think that I wouldn't read too much into that scoreline, because remember, like you said, Fletcher came back. Is he 100%? Probably not. so guys were kind of rushing back in to get into that particular game. So I wouldn't read too much into that. But I think that I think the Riders are going to pay dividends of repaying the faith in a player like Jackson. You've seen him, he's healthy. They said he wasn't healthy last year at all at any point in the year. So now he's coming in absolutely healthy, ready to go. The pieces look like they're clicking. They're hitting the ground running. Lions are showing they're the real deal in Europe right now. They've been really, really impressive. So, maybe less spectacular on the eye if you're the casual fan, but when you start digging down, they look like they've got some, they look like they got some structure underneath them, some foundations there that are going to take them on. So I'm buying that 100%. I think other teams are going to go through their struggles, or other teams are just not strong enough to keep pace. In other competitions, there are other teams that can be dangerous, but in this one, as Tony Rowe reminded us last year, it's about the most consistent team, and those two have the most depth, and they will have the most consistency.
Good point. I guess we're both 3 for 3 because today I'm buying it, and that can change next week. Next week is going to be very, very important for me in regards to Newcastle Eagles. Manchester, losing like that to Sheffield concerns me. I watched them tonight against Cheshire, barely squeaking by. It concerns me. And just watching Leicester in person, they really, really impressed me. I kept saying how I thought they were weaker. I apologize, Leicester Riders fans. They are stronger. They got one superstar, and they got a great group of role guys who play their roles perfectly. Yeah. And Zach Jackson, I talked about it earlier. You need that one game changer to win in this league. He's the game changer. Like, he's just bursting off the screen. He looks like he has another gear this year. And the reason why I say that is just because I think by the time Eagles get everything sorted, which we know they will, it might be a little bit too late, because I can't see Leicester and London losing too much. Because we talked about Fletch, how long before he's completely healthy? Because it's very obvious that if he's not healthy, they're not going very far. By the time you bring your import in, how long does it take to get him accustomed to the system, to the guys? How long does it take Kyle Williams to get back? It's just too many questions. And it's not a fact of will they get it together. For me, I just think it might be too late, because you know how it is. Like, you lose 4 or 5 games before January, it's over with as far as the league title. But I'm still holding hope. But yeah, we'll see. But I really like the way that Leicester and London look thus far. But they're just slightly above everyone else. Not saying that everyone else can't get to that point. When I speak of everyone else, I'm just talking about Newcastle and Manchester. I think everybody else is just in a different tier. Those are the two teams that have the most potential to be on that level. Manchester, they have no excuse for this weekend. Eagles have a lot of excuses. But we'll see. It makes it exciting. Next week, Eagles they actually have time. They got Surrey and Plymouth. Sorry. A perfect opportunity to get this ship back straight and back on the road. So, we'll see what happens. But anyways, that ends our segment of buy or sell.
Man, love it. That last one hurt you right there. I could tell you were struggling to put that together.
I do. It's hard for me to get it out my mouth. It really is. But like I say, I have to be objective. I have to say what I see. And just right now, like I said, it could change next week. But right now, it's really difficult.
For sure. Okay, moving on. Player of the week. You know how this works, guys. This is your turn to get involved. This is your vote. Picked out 3 players. There weren't huge numbers on the winning side in terms of indexes, but we pulled out a huge performance from Zach Jackson at Leicester Riders with 26 points, 4 rebounds, and 5 assists with a 32 index. As Mr. Lasker said, a real game changer. Kipper Nichols for Sheffield Sharks came out with 20 points, 4 rebounds, and 2 assists for a 27 index. And then I went with Tyreek Armstrong with a 12 points, 6 rebounds, and 10 assists for a 23 index in their win today. Although I do need to give a shout out to Teddy Okorafor on his triple-double, albeit in defeat. And remember, myself and Mr. Lasker are conclusive with this. You have to win to get into our player of the weeks, but he more than deserves a shout out. But 3 great players on the board. Make sure you get your votes in on Monday. It's all yours. Back to you, Mr. Lasker.
Get out there and vote. And shout out to Teddy O. It is so fun to watch him play this year. He looks like a totally different player. Looks so much more confident, comfortable, and hopefully he keeps it going. But before we get our guest in, let's educate you with the Lasker Lookback. In this episode of the Lasker Lookback, there is no look back because we're going to ask him everything we need to know about Scott Melvin and Buzz 16. So without further ado, let's get the big man, the boss, in the building, Scott Melvin.
Scott, welcome to the show. Thanks for giving us your time.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome in, boss. It's good to put you on the hot seat, my man. Welcome to the BBL Show.
I considered wearing a bow tie just for this one occasion, Drew, in tribute to Friday.
I was just about to ask you about that. What did you think about the attire? You know, he looked pretty official, right?
It was interesting. I'm a big fan, but I flicked it on and I saw it on the wide shot first. I was running 5 minutes behind, and my first thought was, oh, he's doing some wacky Halloween thing. And then I had to rewind it to realise that he hadn't. And then I said, okay, I get it now. And I went back and saw his Instagram post. And I was like, okay, that's good. No, I enjoyed it a lot.
You know, I was just trying to let the fans know that I was there to be objective because everybody knows I'm Newcastle through and through. So I gave the Riders a little bit of love with the red belt tie. And besides, it's game 1. I want to make sure that we let them know that when Buzz 16 comes in the house, it's the real deal.
Yeah, well, you did that. Yeah.
But you got to do it all together. Surely there's a WhatsApp chat that's talking about what you're wearing, right? You know,
well, I was expecting at least Kieran to turn up in some like braces or Nat to be in a onesie. Let's just really mix it up. Let's really, you set the bar now. It's a weekly challenge.
See what happens. Yeah. See what happens next week. But that makes it all the more fun. But let's go right the way back for fans, especially not really knowing too much about yourself or Buzz 16. Like, give us a little bit about how it started, how it came about.
So I was at Sky Sports for the best part of 20 years, and then about 4 years ago ish now. I was having a conversation with Gary Neville about some things he was looking to do outside of the Sky punditry work. And the timing, it just kind of worked timing-wise. I was able to sort of leave Sky at a point where it was a good time for me to go. There was a lot of stuff Gary had on. And we kind of thought, you know what, let's just do it. It was now or never. So I left Sky in January 17. So Buzz 16 was set up in sort of November 16. I left Sky in the January. And it started off, we had a couple of things to do that were some Gary projects. So the Class 92 documentary was the first thing that we sort of had. And the first sort of 3 months of it, there was just me in an office on my own. There's a great picture of me sat there on a phone a friend of mine took. There was no one on the end of the phone. I was just posing for a picture. And it was like, so we had about three months of that. And then we started having conversations. Obviously, you know, it was a startup. So we started having conversations with everyone you can have conversations with. We came up with a show called Soccer Box, which is now one of our sort of longest running shows. Class 92s in its 4th series. So we'll be 5 years old in January. And yeah, it's been a bit of a whirlwind 5 years. It's gone hell of a quick. But yeah, it's good now. We're sort of branching out into other stuff, not just originally, we're lucky that we have a partner in Gary who's, big name in punditry, very well known in football, and that's that was the business to start with. But now it's so much more than that. Gary's a very important part of it, and all his stuff is very important to what we do. But we're also very conscious, and Gary was very conscious, saying, "Look, guys, I could get hit by a bus tomorrow. You can't be doing stuff that I'm doing because then the business is dead. So you've got to make sure you've got all this other stuff outside of me. Otherwise, it ain't gonna work." So that was always the plan. As much as we had to look after the stuff that was right in front of us, and it was the most important stuff because it was Gary's stuff and it was the first stuff, we knew we had to think beyond. You cannot be reliant on one guy. So it took us a while to get to the point where we had enough in the business to be not reliant on that. But now we've gone quite far the other way, which is a nice problem to have. So it's been very different, very busy. And yeah, we're let's say 5 years in January, so it's gone quick.
Yeah, it seems like it's evolved really fast. And just for our fans, just for clarity, you and Gary are co-founders of Buzz 16.
Yes. Yeah, correct. Yeah.
And just out of interest, how involved is Gary with the basketball side of things in regards to the BBL?
Not involved in any of the business side. He'll watch it, but he's got about 7 other businesses: football club, hotels, Sky, buildings. So the less we have to come to him with problems on the Buzz side, the better. So anything that involves Gary, he is all over. Like super all over to the point where I'm saying, Gary, please leave it with us. But anything that doesn't involve Gary, he's there if we need him. But otherwise, we'll just try and get on with it.
Right. Okay.
It was a nice place to be.
Yeah, definitely. Just for our fans, obviously Buzz 16 is independent of Sky, and it provides the production, and Sky Sports is just a television home for the BBL. Currently in the 2nd year of the deal, just talk to us a little bit about what was Sky's thoughts on season 1, and was it a success in their eyes?
I think it did better than they all thought and better than we thought, which is kind of all you can hope for, really. The challenge was obviously an empty arena. Even though you've got a bit of noise from benches and stuff, but ultimately you're broadcasting from an empty arena. So nothing's as good in an empty arena. Football, I think the football, because outdoor, it doesn't rattle as much, and every squeak on the court, it echoes on TV when there's no one else in there to absorb it. Whereas you saw the difference on Friday. It was so different having fans in. So I think from a TV point of view, that was always a challenge. But in a way, it was a challenge that, in a way, we were lucky there was no fans in. And what I mean by that is the reputation of the BBL ahead of the first Sky game was the attendances aren't great and whatever. Now, obviously, London Lions versus Sheffield had the same amount of fans as Man United with Liverpool. So straight away, you're on a bit of a level playing field whereby no one's watching anything. So you're just looking at the sport, you're not looking at atmosphere, you're not looking at venues, it's just what's happening on the pitch or on the court. So it kind of focuses people a bit on actually, this is the product, this is the game, watch the game, and there's no distractions. So that was the biggest, I think it was a challenge, but there's nothing we could do about it. It was how do we try and make it interesting? And I think given the fact that we had the run of the place, so we're in Leicester for like May Madness, for example, we could have a wire cam above the court, we could have a rail cam by the side of the court, we could have commentary positions wherever we want, we build scaffolds in the stand, we had Mike Tuck in that corner, we had Kieran and Nat in that corner, we could do whatever we want, wherever we want. All of a sudden now, Friday night, you're in a little corner and you can't have the rail because there's people sat there. You can't have the wire because you're blocking the view. Dan and Ant are sat courtside, not in the stand because you're losing seats. So it's a completely different a completely different product to what we had last year. But everything you lose from this year, like, you know, tracking camera or a wire or a commentary position, there's like 3,500 better things in there, which is that you got fans in. So actually, all the stuff we could throw at it last year, we don't need that as much because you've got fans, you've got atmosphere, you've got a backdrop, you've got noise. I know the noise was maybe an issue at points on Friday, but in a good way because you're having to fight the noise. So, so go back to the original question. Yes, it was, and it was a success, and it did go well. And I think having that first season kind of fan-free was great for us because it allowed us to get close to the game, to put everything we put into it, to really try and experiment with the coverage. Whereas now we know it more, people know the product a bit more, people know Kieran and Nat a bit more. Dan and Ant are kind of pretty well established in the BBL, but that you know, that Dan and that Nat and Kieran partnership is a bit more developed, and now we've got Drew in there as well. So yeah, I feel like it's gonna be a very different season output-wise, but only in a good way because, like I say, there's fans in. So when we're in London this week, we're in London this week.
London Friday, yep.
And then we've got Glasgow, Manchester, and I think Sheffield coming up before Christmas, and it's gonna be great because like we've been to these places before, but we might as well have been in an empty shell. You know, it didn't really matter where we were. So I think we're all looking forward to that.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, from my standpoint, like it far exceeded my expectations going into season one. I thought it was fantastic. I think the great thing is obviously behind the scenes, you threw all these extra things at it that I feel like gave it that flavor that almost put it on a level with an NBA game. You know, like I don't think anybody who was sitting down to the product thought that we were going to be able to get the different angles and the different characters. And I loved, you know, bringing in, having that interaction of not just your regular commentators, but also as well reaching out to some players around the league and stuff like that. And that kind of gave us a real talking point here on the show. But for you personally, was there a favorite game or a memory from season one, even maybe something behind the scenes that was going on that was just literally insane and hilarious for you guys that you could share with the fans?
The first game, Newcastle.
This is famous.
And honestly, I've been traveling up and down the country covering football and sport for the best part of 20 years. Never have I had a train reverse on the track, go the opposite way, then get off. So Nat and I were heading from London to Newcastle. At the time, I'm sure you've heard the story before. We get just past Grantham, the train grinds to a halt, and me and Nat go, "Oh, this is a concern." But anyway, we got back in time. Next thing, the train starts reversing, and I can see Nat going, "Oh no!" So I'm looking on Google Maps. Right, where are we? We get to Grantham station. Everybody off. Train's cancelled. Shit. Okay. We're fine that if we get the next train, we'll be there 2 hours before on air. You have an hour to rehearse. I mean, at this point, Nat hadn't met anyone. And by anyone, I mean, I met Nat for the first time that morning. He hadn't met Kieran, Drew, I think it was Rob Paternostro.
Yep.
The guest. He hadn't met the director. He hadn't met the producer. It was just like, it was perfect, the perfect storm. We ended up getting a taxi from Grantham to Newcastle, which took 2.5 hours or 2 hours. We got to Newcastle. Bear in mind it was a double header. So we had Newcastle, London was the second game, and
Cheshire
was the first game. So we had, so Nat had to rehearse 2 separate half-hour build-ups, plus a 15-minute half-time, a 50-minute half-time, and all the post-match. We got there at 20 to 20 to 5, on air at 5. And honestly, how the hell he did not collapse on air, I have no idea. But yeah, I've never known anything like it. I've never been late for an OB, never been late for a call time, never missed rehearsal. And it was always going to be the first one that let's say like you've done yourself. Like, this is my first, as a business, our first live sports job. Despite all the years at Sky, this is my first live sports job as a business. And we almost went on air without a presenter. I mean, Kieran was nervous enough. Imagine just chucking him, like, cut to Kieran straight away and just watching him go. So nothing will top that. I mean, apart from anything else, I posted a picture on Twitter on Friday wishing him good luck. But the day started with Nat dropping his Joe and the Juice bag all over the platform. So there's coffee everywhere, smoothie. It was an absolute catastrophe. And I took and Nat keeps saying, I can't believe how quick you were. So as soon as it landed, I'm like that, bang, snap. So I thought you were going to help me. I was like, no, I had to capture the moment. I'm so glad I did. But we sort of laughed off and like, oh, what a day, eh? But what, as if that's the worst thing that's going to happen today. You spilt your coffee. So that was, I've never had experience anything like it. I mean, the fact that it was like being late for the OB is one thing. The first one, you didn't know anyone, we hadn't met anyone, we'd never been to the arena, we didn't know where we were going. It was Kieran's first proper gig. It was Drew's first proper gig. And Rob Paternostro was like, what's everyone worried about? Rob was just like, absolutely smashed it.
Yeah.
It was awful. But having got through that first show, I think Nat like fumbled on one promo read in the first half hour. Having got through that first show, next week was London Lions, it was a single header, half hour build up, dead easy. And then it was we thought that was quite straightforward. So that was the most memorable, the evening of that game. It was remarkable. And then obviously May Madness itself, the culmination of the whole season was amazing. That sort of that central venue, I think really worked. I know it's difficult now because obviously clubs have got to maximise the ticket revenue and we get that. But having semis in the final particularly, two legs really worked. Some of the players didn't like it, but I thought it really worked from a TV point of view. And then the final itself was such an event. And it felt like a surprise. I'm sure it wasn't a surprise to you, Drew, but it kind of felt like it was all about, the London story after the COVID Cup final and all that sort. I felt like this was going to be the sort of the redemption for them. And it had everything. Those semis in the final with Leicester and Newcastle and London in particular. I thought as a sort of 4-day culmination of the season, I thought it was brilliant.
Amazing, yeah, I agree. It was fantastic.
Yeah, great storyline to kind of chop as the Newcastle Eagles did. But I never told Jay that story, so that's probably the first time he heard that, and I'm sure that's the first time a lot of fans have heard that story. So I just remember getting there and meeting you and Nat and like, hey, what's up? I'm Scott and I'm Nat. And then it's like, hey, we're going live in 20 minutes. And I'm like, I don't even know what I'm doing. So yeah, it was crazy. But moving on, let's talk about this. Obviously, it was announced that it was a 2-year deal. This is the second year. So technically at the end of the year, who knows what happens after this. But fans are curious to know what's the longevity of this deal? What's the potential of this kind of relationship between Buzz 16, BBL, and Sky?
I mean, I'd like it to be as long as possible, obviously, as I'm sure you guys would. I think we said at the beginning that judge it after 2 years, don't judge it after one game, 6 months. Judge it after 2 years. 2 full seasons is a good barometer of right, where are we at? And we haven't, obviously, we're one game into year 2. So I think that for me, the fact that it's back in people's consciousness outside of the BBL world, so the BBL kind of bubble, if you like, is always going to be in the front of everyone's mind. But I think getting it out to the casual fan, the casual sports fan who might be watching Friday Night Football and flick over and watch the last quarter of a Lions game or whatever's on the Friday night. That kind of crossover with the Sky audience, that's what's kind of starting to build a bit now. And the fact that we've got, I think not all, but I think most games, hopefully all, but most games are on YouTube as well. So it's not behind a paywall. It's the full production of the Friday night games available to everyone on YouTube for free. So you've got your BBL player for every game as and when you want it. But the Sky production is mostly available for free on YouTube as well. So that's a massive thing that we all need to try and tell the story of. You know, it's here, it's free. It's not the player, which is a great service for those that want to watch everything. But if you want to watch just the Friday night game, just the big production game, it's still free. And I think that's gonna, once that narrative starts to gather pace, that's gonna help massively. And I think, going back to your previous question, has it been a success? The first season, yeah, I think it has been a success. I think the numbers were good. I'd like to think the production was good. The basketball was definitely good. The quality of the sport was actually good, which is kind of the most important thing. And then, you know, how can we help? How can we help get people to know who the players are, who the stars are? Because the whole point for me was, if you care about who's playing, then you've got more chance to get to watch it. So, you know, it might be that you watch the Newcastle Eagles locker room piece on Twitter, and you think, oh, I like that Darius before, or like, you know, whatever. All of a sudden, you see these guys on telly, and you make a connection. You've got to hear these guys speak. You've got to hear them talk about their favorite dance, their favorite song, they prefer McDonald's, all this nonsense. But it's good nonsense because it actually gets you to know. You've done these interviews, Drew, right? So
yeah,
it's kind of stuff that you don't want to hear people necessarily talking about. Oh, you know, we've got to work hard today because Plymouth are a good team, and if we don't give our maximum effort, we won't. We heard it a million times. You know, it's the rehearsed kind of press training. Give them a soundbite and get out. Whereas actually, you want players to talk about what they like, what they don't like, who they don't like. You know, the first interview we did with a player last year, we did London Lions locker room shoot, and Kevin Ware sent a tweet out about Sheffield, and we asked Joe Kinwin, "Oh, Kevin Ware got in trouble." He said, "Yeah," he said, "Sheffield suck and they do." I was like, "Oh, imagine if that was Paul Pogba talking about Liverpool. It'd be mega." So you've got players actually trash talking each other, which is great, and no one really means it. It's good fun, but you know, if Joe wants to be the bad guy, and that's, you know, fine. But you need bad guys. You need, you know, you want to have a reaction to people when you see them on TV. It doesn't matter if you like them. If I dislike someone, I want to watch them lose. I'll still watch. You know, so getting to know people. Forget the basketball bit. How they play basketball. We'll see that on the game. You know, I know Ramon Fletcher can play basketball. I know Gino Crandall can play basketball. But I also know that his favorite foods are linguine and he likes Jay-Z. Do you know what I mean? You've got to get under the skin a little bit. Yeah. And that's the stuff that I think people like, and that's the stuff that works well in terms of getting fans engaged with people. Because footballers is a perfect example. It's getting less so now, but you know, for a long time, there's a running joke about getting an interesting interview with a footballer was hard. Whereas now, actually, you've got a lot of guys who are just, you know, Declan Rice, Jack Grealish, a lot of the guys from the England team in the summer. They'll say things, they'll be themselves, they'll talk about music, they'll talk about food, they'll have a joke, they'll have a laugh. And people love, this is the most popular England team that anyone can remember. Obviously, they're successful, but also the players give of themselves a bit and they open up. That's a huge part of the growth of the league. Yeah. It has to be. Yeah. Players opening up, players giving open, honest interviews, even if it's a bit tongue-in-cheek, even if they're taking the piss out of each other. It's so important, and they do it well.
Yeah, the NBA has done a great job at that. at selling stars and selling players, and obviously we know how big that league is. But do you envision, as you think about this thing growing, do you ever envision like a studio-based analysis similar to the NBA and football?
And it's you mean as a sort of as a separate show as part of the live show?
No, like a separate show, like kind of like I guess we would say like a match of the day kind of thing with the league.
Yeah.
Like on a Sunday evening or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be great, wouldn't it? It'd be great. I suppose that you got to balance out though. This is the number of people who are watching the live game. Generally, the live games always perform better than highlights.
Mm-hmm.
So if your live game's doing, say let's take football. If Man United Liverpool does 5 million, Match of the Day does 3. You know, if BBL is doing 500,000, what would a highlight show do? Does it work for a channel?
Yeah.
So there's all these things to think about, but content-wise, it'd be great because you've got the whole week's worth of stuff. You could review what's happened. You can preview what's coming up. It's basically bringing what you guys do to life, right? So it's visualizing what you're talking about, the main talking points, the main stories, and then actually making it more technical and bringing some illustration, bringing some analysis to it. I think that's down the line. I think that's kind of phase 2 or phase 3.
Right.
I think phase 2 would be to do more live games first. I think I'd rather see more live games than the highlights of the other games. So whether that was Friday doubles or whether it was more cup games, more trophy games, more women's games, I don't know. But I think that would be the next thing. I think would be to do more live, and then magazine shows perhaps would follow.
Yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying. Definitely, like it's kind of a springboard, isn't it? So obviously, when you're looking at these things, you're talking about telling the stories and getting underneath. Those are going to be those little platforms down the line that is going to enable us to get to know them on an even deeper level. But you know, let's fast forward. So we get to May. You know, we crown a BBL champion. You know, and forget the obvious, you know, which is it's a numbers game in the business element. But how would you judge success from a production perspective? You know, when you sit back and you raise that last glass of wine with everybody, like what is going to be the success of this production?
Well, apart from numbers, obviously, so eyeballs on the product is the main thing. People have watched it. That means they've enjoyed it. We can't control the basketball, right? The one thing, you know, it's a bit like whenever we said, "Oh, we've got you know, Newcastle Leicester, and it's not a great game, and it's quite tight," but you know, that's not our fault. We can't control that. All we can do is give it the best build up, make sure the game's covered well. So we cannot control the quality of the basketball. So let's assume it's amazing, and let's assume there's millions of people watching it. That's not down to us. So, you know, it's like when Man United play Liverpool in a Champions League final, you're going to get 50 million people watching that. The studio analysis can be my mum, Drew's kids, and you're still going to get 50 million people watching it. So it doesn't matter. So all we can do is just try and bring a little bit of enjoyment to it. If we enjoy it and people are enjoying it, that's a success. When you educate people a little bit and not make it too, you know, we didn't want to make the coverage of this basketball too technical to start with, because we wanted to open it up. So, you know, during the game, they talk the technical talk. Drew and Anne and Dan will talk about what's happening on the court and explain it to people without being patronizing or talking down to them. But the worst thing we could have done is come on air, show one, and Kieran start talking about, you know, positions and guards and doing circles and lines and dots. And because if you don't understand it, if you're fresh to the game,
you're out.
You're going, well, this is too much for me. I can't. I'll never get this. So it's going to be a slow burn. So the success of production is it fun? Do we enjoy it? I never think you can be criticized for making mistakes. My thing for TV is, I don't care if there's mistakes. If it's boring, that's unforgivable. So if you make a few mistakes and you have a goal and it's fun, fine. But playing safe and being boring is not acceptable, because it's TV, it's entertainment, it's sport. Sport is entertainment. And if it's boring, you fail.
Love it. Was it just a quick question, and I guess going all the way back to the start of our conversation there, and you were talking about linking up with Gary, you know, and you take this risk to go all out. Was that the vision? Was that you could see that you wanted to really bring that entertainment value with your own vision and put that into something like this kind of production?
Yeah. So my background is mostly is all live sport. So the documentary stuff we're doing, that was new to us. That was new to me. Obviously, we make TV programs, we make edited shows, but like proper documentaries, we'd never really done. So we had to bring in people who knew that world. But my thing has always been live sport, and that's, you know, it's been my kind of my main love in TV is live sport. So yeah, that was always something we wanted to get back into, always something we wanted to do. And the basketball kind of came about kind of by chance a little bit. Mm-hmm. I was on a Zoom call with Paul Blake from Newcastle. I can't remember what we were talking about. It was about Newcastle, about basketball, but it wasn't about covering it. And it just came up, said, "Oh, who has where do you show the games?" He said, "Oh, we kind of do, you know, a bit of YouTube, a bit of BBL." There wasn't a BBL player then, was there? A bit of YouTube and whatever. No, so why don't you try and get on? Have you tried to get on Sky or BT or whatever? And he said, "Well, yeah, kind of. Well, if I could try and get it on, to be helping, to be kind of do it together." So, well, yeah, we can do that, and by all means. And then 4 months later, I'm on Grantham Station with Nat Coombs covering coffee, and and we're off. And it was a bit of a. I mean, that was a proper whirlwind, and this is all during lockdown 1. So again, we arrived at Newcastle having not met anyone. I didn't meet the guys at the deep. I didn't meet Paul Blake until that night, despite having done the deal, get it on TV. So it was always my plan and hope to get back into doing live sport with Buzz, and the basketball was an unsurprising, but I mean, we're so fortunate to be able to do it now, because I think we quite realised how good it would be, and I mean that in terms of it's such a good TV sport. It's so quick. It's all in one. You know, it sounds daft, but it's so tight. It's so fast. And when you see it courtside, you don't realize how quick everyone is. You don't realize how fast they are, how big they are, how strong they are. It's kind of lost on TV that a little bit. Every sport is, you know.
Yeah.
But seeing like London Newcastle live for the first time courtside was just like, oh my god. I was annoyed at myself for not having gone before. And that's the one thing you kind of say to people: if you haven't been to basketball, just go, because it's such a surprise in a good way how good it is. So yeah, it was a surprise, but a very pleasant one.
Yeah, I don't think it's I don't ever think it's a case of when you get somebody there that they're not going to get bitten by the bug. It's literally trying to get their eyes on there in the first place. But let me just finish with this then. Like, obviously with this humorous, first game all in the forefront of our mind, if they made a movie out of even just picking that particular day, if they made a movie of you, who would you pick to play yourself?
Is this Newcastle last year?
Yeah. So let's imagine that he's traveling with Nat.
Easy. No, it's easy. It's easy. It's John Candy and Steve Martin. It's playing James automobiles. It's done.
That is absolutely bang on.
I'm casting myself as John Candy, which is again slightly unfortunate, but it's listen, lockdown's been tough. But yeah, it's a no-brainer. I mean, that's still our Nat and I's go-to reference for that day.
Well,
I'll be use a shirt a shower curtain ring salesman, John Candy. That's me.
Well, now he's listening. I want to watch that. That's for sure.
Oh God,
love it. Well, any last thoughts from you, Drew?
Man, we just want to, as a league, as a whole league, we really appreciate you, Buzz 16, for giving us a chance, giving us an opportunity. And, you know, that's all you can ask for. I've been in the league for 16 years. Jay grew up in this league. And so we've always talked about it. We've had opportunities on TV. It's come and gone. We just need to get this game on TV. So you guys have done it, and we'll see where it goes. But we're very, very thankful. And tonight has been very insightful for our fans to just get a little bit of background about what exactly you guys do and where we're trying to go with this thing. So appreciate your time. I know it's late here on Halloween night. Tomorrow's Monday morning. Got to get ready for the grind back in London on Friday night. So if you can't be there live, make sure you guys are tuned in. But thank you again, Scott. One
quick question, Drew. What are you wearing Friday?
You know what? I might surprise it and just come really, really casual. Disappoint a lot of people.
Is there any doubts? Is there any doubts that Mrs. Lasker is the one like picking the outfits? He doesn't know what he's wearing. Let's not get this confused.
Nah, give me credit. I mean, I run it by her, but I'm the creator.
There you go.
I'm the creator.
Yeah, I can push that button whenever I want, Scott.
Awesome stuff. Good stuff, my man.
All right, Scott. Appreciate it.
Cheers, mate.
Speak to you soon.
Take care.
Ciao.
Well, guys, these episodes are coming thick and fast, and this one is no different. That was really good. I mean, some really insightful questions right there. Like you said, it doesn't always have to be on the court. It's so lovely to see what's going off the court. You know, listening to Nat's struggles and just how quality he is to be able to pull that off, because like you said, nobody would have ever known, just like Kieran as well. Listen, Drew, I want to finish with one thing before we get out of here. Obviously, Riders Ball picked their Who's Your Five on the social media. I didn't include it in the Marriott Minute because I want to play this game with you just quickly, just super quickly. And I'll go through the names we both can pick.
Okay.
So these are mostly, if not all these guys you've gone up against. Let's start at the point guard position. So they gave us choices of Connor Washington, Zaire Taylor, Gino Crandell, Neil Watson, or Cameron Rundles. I know all of those guys. I know you do too. Who would you pick to be your starting PG in this five?
Man, that's a tough one. Wow, I got to go with Zaire. Just for longevity. I mean, 5 years from now, that might switch to Gino, but, he has to have a long career like we've seen Zaire do in the BBL, be MVP. So, yeah, Zaire.
Love that. That is a great pick. And like I said, I think people really forget how great he was, especially in those earlier years. And even when he went to Worcester as well, he elevated that program.
Yeah.
For me, I would pick Gino. We know the game's change. You have to win right now. And if you need to win, you need that MVP. So I'm putting Gino straight into the starting position.
Can't argue with that.
Okay, at the two guard, tough one again. We got Tyler Bernardini, Zach Jackson, Jay Kuznard, Brad Wizabicki. That's probably a name you've forgotten about, but bringing him back in, sharpshooter, and then Naaman Wright. So if you had to pick one, who jumps out at you?
I got to go with my boy Kuz. Obviously, he's from H-Town, and I think he was part of the shift of creating the culture, the winning culture there at Leicester. And then obviously Tyler came in and carried the flag. But yeah, my boy Kuz.
Man, good pick. And he was an amazing two-way player as well. I don't think people gave him the credit offensively that he deserved because he was such a good defensive player. For me, Tyler Bernardini, really loved his time at Leicester, a winner, and just a player I can appreciate. I enjoy watching him play. Small forward then, they had Jamal Anderson, Drew Sullivan, J.R. Holder, Aaron Hardy, or Laterell Williams.
I got to go with Drew, man. Every team needs an asshole, and Drew played that role perfectly. And he's a winner, man. Like, I got to go with He would never forgive me if I picked Jamel Anderson over him. Although Jamel deserves his plaudits for sure.
Yeah, they were all studs, and Laterell Williams, like I actually played with him in Birmingham the year before he went to Leicester, so he was a real stud when he came over. Aaron Hardy as well was an incredible player,
triple-double machine.
Yeah, absolutely. But for me, I'd have to pick Drew Sullivan as well, like just a winner. You know, we've heard the stories of how he passed the mantle down to Tyler Bernardini. So he was a part of being able to have that longevity of winning as well. Power forward, this was probably my biggest struggle. So Pierre Hampton, William Lee, Ant Rowe, our guy, Taylor King, or Mark Loving.
Man, that's tough, man. Golly. I mean, I got to go with my colleague, man. Ant Rowe. Why not? I mean, I think of all those names there, and within a team like that, you have to remember you got to have a glue guy, right? A guy that's going to be content with having 6 points, 8 rebounds, and be happy and bring the lads together. And no one can play that role better than our guy, Ant.
Yeah, 100% agree. And people don't realize that actually, you know, for both him and the Riders program, that signing became very, very pivotal for them getting over the hump as well. So,
yep. And he was a mid-range king. People don't remember, but Ant,
automatic.
Before he had his knee injuries,
yeah,
he was absolutely
a baller. Automatic. So yeah, I mean, for me, that I would directly sit on the fence with this one, with Tony Rowe or Pierre Hampton. Pierre Hampton, of course, I had him in Plymouth. I feel like he was, you know, one of the most talented players that's ever played in this league in terms of just the skill set, in terms of the different things that he could do. You know, he was more of a 3, like a 2-stroke 3 for me down in Plymouth. Comes into Leicester, they need a 4. They ask him to play the 4. That's exactly what he does and plays that role perfectly. But if I had to choose between those two, I would take Tone. You know, like you said, he's my guy, and people probably forget just how damn good he was back in the day. So take Tony Rowe. Last position, center. You got Mo Walker, Darian Nelson-Henry, Tim Williams, Andy Thompson, or Rashad Hassan.
Golly, I gotta go with Tomo. How can I go against someone who's won 20 trophies?
Yeah.
And at 6'10", and I can spread the floor and will hit big shots. Tomo. There we go.
Yeah. Easy for me as well. Tomo. I mean, Hassan was a big time player when he was at Leicester, but yeah, Tomo's just a winner. So for clarity, Drew's picks were Zaire Taylor, Jay Couisnard, Drew Sullivan, Tony Rowe, Andy Thompson. For me, not too dissimilar. Backcourt's different. Gino Crandell, and then I'm spacing the floor with Tyler Bernardini. But I have Drew Sullivan, Ant Rowe, Andy Thompson, 3 great British players.
Can't go wrong with either.
Anyway, Mr. Lasker, I just threw that in as the end. Maybe that's a little caveat for everyone. But yeah, as usual, guys, we're so grateful for you tuning into the show. You know, let us know what you think about the new content. Let us know what you think about the guests. Anything that we can improve. We're always working behind the scenes to try and, you know, bring the level up. As always, we are never satisfied. Drew, lead us out.
Have a great week, guys. Friday night at the Copper Box. London fans, come. Let's see what a sold out Copper Box looks like. And if you can't get there, make sure you're glued to the Sky Production Game 2. You know, this, like we talked about, this is the end of the 2-year deal. We got to make sure we have eyeballs on this product so we can keep this thing going and get an extension. So see you guys, same place, same time here on the show.